Imagine running into the single person you swore you would never see again. And the second their eyes land on you, their entire mindset shifts in less than a heartbeat. Because what they do next is not accidental. It is expected, planned, and designed to pull you right back into their emotional pull. Before I break this down, tap the like button so this message reaches the people who need clarity, not confusion. When a narcissist sees you after no contact, the very first thing they do, often within a split second, is scan you for weaknesses or emotional gaps. This is not a conscious, gentle look. It is a mental check driven by survival, ego, and control. Their eyes move differently than a normal person's would in a moment of surprise or reunion. They are not looking at your outfit, your smile, or even your presence. They are looking for cracks. They are checking your stance, the tension in your face, how fast you look away, whether your breathing changes, or if your shoulders drop in familiarity. They want to know if the old version of you is still there, the version that put up with their tricks, absorbed their moods, and carried their emotional load. That split-second scan is their attempt to understand whether they still hold mental space in your mind. In that moment, they are judging your emotional temperature. If you appear anxious, shaken, or unsure, they register it like a go signal. It shows that they can still influence you, push your limits, or pull you back into the pattern you work so hard to escape. But if you look grounded, uninterested, or neutral, it bothers them. Narcissists depend heavily on expected emotional reactions from others. When you no longer respond, it messes with their sense of control. They are looking for weakness, and when they cannot find it, it starts an internal crisis masked behind whatever face they decide to show. This scanning behavior is also tied to their need to keep dominance. They want to figure out whether their disappearance affected you, whether you seem weaker or stronger, whether your life looks like it improved or got worse without them. They read your look, your energy, and even your silence as proof for or against their story about you. If you seem at peace, it goes against their belief that you cannot do well without them. If you look stressed, it confirms their fantasy that they remain impossible to forget. Their entire identity depends on these meanings. So that initial scan is not about reconnecting or noticing your presence. It is about recalculating their power, determining their chances of getting back in, or deciding how to react to protect their fragile ego. When a narcissist sees you after a period of no contact, they instantly shift into acting mode, changing their entire persona to whatever they believe will give them the most mental advantage in that moment. This change is not subtle. It is almost like a show. Their body language, tone, expressions, and energy change like they are stepping into a role they have practiced countless times. If they sense that charm is the best route, they soften their eyes, offer a warm smile, and speak with an ease that feels relaxing, almost fond. They may come across as friendly, grounded, or suddenly self-aware, as if the past never happened. This charm is not real, it is a plan. They are trying to lure you back into the emotional closeness where they once could shape your reactions. If charm does not seem like the right tool, they shift to dramatic flair. They might appear overly happy to see you, almost wildly enthusiastic, acting like the meeting is meaningful or fate-driven. This is not emotion, it is manipulation wrapped in intensity. It is designed to run over your boundaries and make you forget the mess they caused. But if they sense strength, lack of care, or distance in your energy, the performance turns. They may become cold, unfeeling, or distant, using emotional absence as a power play. They might look through you instead of at you, pretending you are unimportant or small. This version of performance aims to spark insecurity and make you feel like you were never important. It is punishment disguised as not caring. Sometimes they choose a hurt performance. Soft eyes, lowered voice, slow sighs, as if they are the one hurt by the distance, as if the separation was mutual pain. They use weakness as a hook, hoping it will spark your pity, because empathy has always been one of their favorite tools to use. All of this happens fast within seconds. Because narcissists do not operate from being real, they operate from instinctive manipulation. They choose whichever face they believe will give them the upper hand, regain emotional access, or shake your stability. Every look, every move, every tone shift is planned to influence your reaction, pull you back into their orbit, or protect their fragile ego from the realization that you moved on without them. When a narcissist sees you after no contact, one of the very first things they do, almost automatically, is test your limits. This is not always done through obvious behavior. In fact, the most powerful tests are faint, quiet, and easy to miss if you are not paying attention. They might take a small step closer than what is right or speak to you with a tone that assumes closeness, as if the time apart never existed. These tiny behaviors are purposeful checks to see whether you will allow them access again. Narcissists operate like emotional users. They are looking for the smallest opening that signals you might still be influenced by them. Sometimes the boundary test takes the form of an innocent-sounding question that digs deeper than it should. They might ask how you have been, but with a tone that suggests a right to your inner world, or they reference something personal from the past, a private moment or inside joke to see if you will slip back into the old emotional rhythm you once had with them. Even the way they say your name can carry an assumed closeness as though the relationship never broke. These are tests designed to gauge whether you are still emotionally reachable. Other times, the test is more daring. A narcissist might make a slightly critical comment disguised as humor, waiting to see if you shrink, apologize, or adjust yourself the way you used to. They might attempt a backhanded compliment meant to shake you up and measure your reaction. If you seem rattled, they read it as a sign that their mental influence is intact. If you remain unbothered, they feel threatened because losing influence over someone they once controlled is deeply upsetting to them. Even silence can be a limit test. If they pause after saying something, they're waiting to see whether you will fill the space, over-explain, or try to ease the tension. You doing so comforts them that the dynamic is still uneven, that you are still the one accommodating their mood. These tests are quick but intentional because reestablishing the old power structure is their main goal. The moment they sense that the boundaries you once lacked are now firm, they experience it as a challenge to their ego, and that changes the entire direction of the interaction. When a narcissist sees you after no contact, one of their instant reactions is to try to take back mental power. And they often do this through guilt, nostalgia, or fear. This attempt is not random. It is their reflexive way of restoring the ranking that once kept you emotionally tied to them. They cannot tolerate the idea that the dynamic has shifted, so they reach for whatever emotional lever worked most effectively in the past. Guilt is one of their favorite tools. They might say something that sounds gentle on the surface, but carries a heavy meaning beneath it. Something like, "I thought you would at least check on me," or "I guess you moved on easily." These statements are designed to make you feel like you neglected them, even though they were the one who caused the harm. It is their way of turning the tables so you second-guess your decision to walk away. If guilt does not seem effective, they pivot to nostalgia. They may bring up a memory, a moment, or a joke meant to pull you back into the emotional familiarity you once shared. Nostalgia allows them to bypass logic and reach into the part of you that remembers connection, warmth, or hope. They use this because they know emotional memory can be powerful. And if they can get you to soften even briefly, it gives them a foothold in your mind again. They are not reminiscing because they value the moment. They are doing it because they want to reopen the emotional door you closed. When neither guilt nor nostalgia works, they step it up. Intimidation becomes the next tool, sometimes subtle, sometimes sharp. Their stance gets rigid, their expression tightens, or their tone shifts into something colder. They might make a comment meant to unsettle you or remind you of the power they once had. This fear tactic is less about actual threat and more about mental dominance. They want you to feel small, unsteady, or unsure so they can regain control of the story. All three methods, guilt, nostalgia, intimidation, serve the same purpose: to pull you back into the emotional space where they were in charge. Seeing you strong, distant, or healed threatens them deeply, so reclaiming that power becomes their immediate priority. When a narcissist sees you after no contact, one of the fastest behaviors they slip into is copying your energy. This is not the healthy kind of mirroring that builds connection. It is a manipulative strategy designed to confuse you, lower your defenses, or pull you back into old emotional patterns. They study your tone, your expression, your stance, and even your level of enthusiasm or lack of care, and then they adjust themselves to match it. If you seem calm and distant, they might suddenly become calm and distant too, as if to suggest they have changed, matured, or grown during the separation. This creates a false sense of agreement. making you second-guess the pain they caused. You may think maybe they are different now, when in reality, they are just copying your behavior to lower your guard. If you appear warm or polite, they instantly shift into that same warmth, using it as an opportunity to revive familiarity. They know that matching your tone makes you more comfortable, and comfort is where old patterns can slip back in unnoticed. But if you appear confident, strong, or self-assured, they may copy that strength not because they feel it, but because they want you to believe they are on your level. Now, narcissists are excellent copycats. They can study your emotional cues and reflect them back with surprising precision. This talent is what makes their presence feel familiar and convincing even after periods of distance. Copying also allows them to mask their true motives. By matching your emotional state, they hide any insecurity, jealousy, or anger they feel from seeing you after a long separation. Instead of exposing weakness, they imitate stability, hoping you will be thrown off balance. They want you to question whether your memory of them was exaggerated, harsh, or unfair. Copying is their way of rewriting the emotional script without ever acknowledging the harm they caused. Most importantly, this tactic helps them quickly reestablish the old dynamic. If they can get you to feel comfortable, nostalgic, or emotionally synchronized with them, they regain influence. The moment you respond positively, even subtly, they interpret it as an invitation to step back into your life. Their goal is not connection, it is access. Copying is simply the fastest way to get it. When a narcissist sees you after no contact, one of the most predictable things they do is attempt to recreate the old dynamic instantly, almost as if no time has passed. This reaction is not accidental. It is a deeply deep habit designed to pull you back into the emotional role you once played. The moment they recognize you, their mind rushes back to the version of you that was easier to control, easier to impress, easier to shake. They behave as though the history between you remains stuck in time, expecting you to step back into that old position without hesitation. This is why their tone, their expressions, and even their pacing become strongly familiar. They are trying to trigger muscle memory in you, emotional automatic habits that brings back old behaviors, old vulnerabilities, and old reactions. They might use inside jokes, shared routines, or personal references, as if the bond never broke. They may speak in the same rhythm, or use the same phrases that once had power over you. This is not sentimentality, it is strategy. They know people often revert to familiar patterns when confronted with past emotional dynamics, and they want to activate that reflex before your healed self has time to step in. They rely on immediacy, catching you off guard before you mentally prepare, before you reinforce boundaries, before you recall the reasons you walked away. If you previously played the role of caretaker, they may subtly try to pull that out of you again by appearing stressed, confused, or overwhelmed. If they once positioned you as the insecure one, they may make comments that lower your confidence. If they used to keep you chasing their validation, they may adopt a dismissive tone to recreate that imbalance. Every version of the old dynamic is a tool to regain control. This quick recreation also protects their ego. It allows them to pretend the separation did not impact them or that you were never truly gone. It helps them avoid confronting the reality that you grew, healed, or changed in their absence. Narcissists struggle with new dynamics because new dynamics require accountability. Old dynamics do not. So they rush to reestablish that familiar structure, hoping you will slip back into it without noticing how intentionally it is being rebuilt. When a narcissist sees you after no contact, they instantly begin judging whether you are still a source of supply or whether they need to discard you again to feel superior. This assessment happens almost automatically because supply, your attention, emotion, admiration, or even your distress is the main energy that keeps their ego functioning. They are not looking at you as a person they miss or someone they want to reconnect with. They are analyzing your value in that moment. If you seem emotionally open, hurt, nostalgic, or reactive, they read that as evidence that you are still usable, still reachable, still someone they can tap into for validation or power. To them, this means you remain a resource they have not fully used up. But if you appear composed, indifferent, confident, or unaffected, they have a very different reaction. Your stability threatens their sense of dominance because it signals that you are no longer emotionally accessible. They begin to feel insignificant, irrelevant, or powerless in your presence. Narcissists cannot tolerate this feeling, so they often shift quickly into internal saving face, rewriting the moment in their mind in a way that protects their ego. They may tell themselves that you were always the problem, that they never cared, or that rejecting you again is a way of proving superiority. This mental discard may play out through coldness, arrogance, or abrupt dismissal, all meant to make it seem like you are beneath their attention. Sometimes their evaluation lands somewhere in the middle. They see potential supply, but not the easy kind they once extracted from you. This is when they test the waters with subtle charm, mixed emotional cues, or controlled weakness, hoping to see if you will respond. If you give even a small reaction, they take it as encouragement and prepare to re-engage. If you give nothing, they feel exposed and may attempt to punish you with emotional withdrawal or passive-aggressive behavior. This instant evaluation reveals what you truly meant to them, not emotionally, but functionally. You were a source of fuel, and they are checking whether that fuel still exists. The moment they realize they cannot extract anything, they detach.